I should say I had a very refreshing conversation with a member of the Aspinall team yesterday, and big Andy
Yeah.
Aspinall, the OG, one of
God
the
love him.
men.
Yeah, he's
It's
great.
just, he's saying this to me, and I'm like, Andy, this is gonna get a big reaction. He's like, yeah, yes, I do. It doesn't like, I mean, here's the thing, and it has got big reaction, and it's been aggregated all over the place, which I expected it to be. As the words are coming out of his mouth, I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be pretty big, Andy. But here's why I really like it. First of all, it's refreshing. Um, it's rare that we hear people giving their true opinion on situations anymore in the sport, and that's a tragedy. And that really is like a tragedy for the sport where people are guarding how they feel and are afraid of the repercussions of saying things. And I think it's so pure because Tom, Tom's coach is Andy, Tom's manager is Andy, and Tom's father is Andy. And I put this out, and the vast majority I can see is everyone's like, yes. And a lot of journalists have got on to me being like, this is incredible. I love that this happened. I see a lot of people kind of pushing back on it, but the level of intensity that this man is is involved with Tom's career, quitting his job when he's 40, a very successful career, to focus on his kids because his career had taken him away. He used to build obstacle courses around his house to keep them active. So they'd be swinging out of monkey bars. Andy was also one of the pioneers of jiu-jitsu in the UK. So he used to go and train with, say, Hickson would do a seminar, and then he'd come back and just drill everything he learned, and then he'd be drilling it with his kids. So he's been training these guys since they're like toddlers, essentially, without them ever realizing they're training. They just think they're playing all the time. He gets him all the way to this situation, and then he finds out from a phone call from his son in the middle of the night to say, "Oh yeah, we're the champion now." They just said it at a press conference. Like the fact that anyone would be surprised that he was a bit underwhelmed by that is absolutely shocking to me. And another thing I'll say about this before we get into it: managers in this sport have to keep their relationships with the UFC,
Yeah.
and it's a real problem, and there's many layers to this issue. Managers are afraid to back their fighters because of the repercussions on their relationships with the UFC. And it's all over the place. They will serve the UFC before they serve their fighters, as far as I'm concerned. But to see a guy with only one fighter and not have to worry
Yeah.
about this at all and just be like, do you know what? This was bullshit. Essentially just be like, this is not cool. I thought it was class. Do we have some quotes there on our Jordan? I don't know if you put them up there. Oh, here we go. This is from the article up on Uncrowned. And believe me, this has nothing to do with me if this is a good article. I am just writing 50 words. Here's Andy. 50 words. Here's Andy. Here it is. I can't think of a worse way you could have done it. This is the announcement of Tom as the new champion. I don't know if pathetic is the word. I just feel they didn't think about it. I don't think Tom deserved to find out at a press conference in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
It's got a
It's poor.
point.
It's poor man management of Jones and Tom. I like the personnel at the UFC, but for me, they just don't do things right sometimes.
I think he's right. Well, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Here we go. And here it is on Jones. Like, I mean, just feels like he was knocking fucking home run balls out of the park. Like everything that everyone felt.
Yeah,
He's just like, and here's this one.
I know.
As soon as Jones got injured and said he needed a year off before he fought Stipe, he should have stepped aside then. It didn't happen. So we had to wait a year for him to fight Stipe. And that was a bit of a farce because they both looked slow and out of shape. A bit of opinion there from Andy. No problem with that. And
Call it
yeah,
like it
so
is.
tell me, do you disagree with anything I said there, Ben?
No, I think he's right that it does seem like with some of this stuff, like the UFC is just not thinking about it, and I think that that's like coming from the top at Dana White, where I think he's gotten very used to the UFC just being such a successful brand that there's almost nothing it can do to really hurt the money in any meaningful way. It's just a cash machine at this point. The money just flows right
Yeah.
in. They're getting paid, especially like you look at this past weekend, it's a good example where it's like you're getting paid by the government of Azerbaijan to come in and do a show. Whether anybody shows up for that show or not, you're getting paid. You're getting paid by ESPN, whether anybody watches the show or not. You're just making so much money without there being a whole lot of incentive to necessarily go above and beyond and do a great job of anything. And you just kind of take the fan base for granted at a certain point. These people will be there, We can screw some stuff up. We can fail to deliver on some of these big fights that we promised them. It doesn't matter. Those people aren't going anywhere. The UFC is just like very comfortable in that. And with that comfortability comes a certain like lethargy where they're just sort of like, it'll be fine. It doesn't matter. And I think that that's what this is symptomatic of. Like he said, I think that just there wasn't like malice to it or anything. I think that they're just not really that worried about it. They're like, all right, this is how it played out. Fine, on to the next one. I think that that very much is like the attitude. And what you said, Pizzi, about the state of management in MMA is absolutely true. And you can see it. And you see the difference where you have a guy with one client who also he's very close to personally because it's his son. But like he's going to actually stand up for his guy and say what needs to be said because he doesn't have to massage this ongoing relationship with the UFC. Most of the managers that we see in the UFC, there's a few exceptions, but most of them are essentially they're just broken. All they are is they are just like a go-between. They work almost more for the UFC than they work for any one fighter, and all of their incentives are in maintaining that good relationship with the UFC, and they're just a funnel for the talent. They are not there to really represent the interests of the fighters at all. And the fighters, I mean, so many fighters, this has the only version of this sport they've ever known, so they just take that for granted. They think that that's just normally how it works, and it would blow their minds to see how it works in other sports where it's like, no, your manager is supposed to be getting the best deal for you. He's supposed to be working for you. He is not supposed to be buddy with the people that he's negotiating with. Like he works for you. And they just don't, they've never known this sport to work that way. And so it is really different when you see somebody come in who doesn't have to do that, and you see that such a stark difference. I wish MMA had more of these guys that could just speak up and tell it like it is.
And also just what's great about that piece is just you get this, you really do think about it. You're like, that POV, just imagine being the Aspinall camp. Imagine being in that camp. Like, honestly, they've done, the UFC has done such a horrible job of getting Aspinall over, of saying like, hey guys, this is the beast of the division. They have not really done that. They've protected Jones. And I'm like, if you're from that camp, you've got to be like, what did we do? All we're doing is like plowing through the dudes you're putting in front of us, and we want to fight that guy, and we can't, but we're also like he raises a great point. This is one of the rare times where heavyweight becomes such a big deal. Like, so many times we go through these moments where heavyweight's not that big of a deal in the UFC, but when it becomes a big deal, it's obviously heavyweight. It becomes a big deal for everybody, right? They've done a horrible job of just making us feel the magnitude of having this guy who's this wrecking machine. And I think that's what bothered me so much about the whole Jones, ritual thing from last year, where it's like we're just going through all the Jones stuff without acknowledging, at least on the level they should have, that Aspinall is that guy, or that he should be that guy, or that he's coming. There was no real promotion from it. In fact, I think when he won when he defended his interim belt, the question still went to Jones. And if I recall, Dana was still, defending Jones. It's like, what are you doing? You used to be in the business of trying to overthrow, but you're always trying to like heap momentum on the guy coming. It's like, maybe it is apathy. I don't know where it comes from, but that's where it's the game has changed. To just announce that, just to cast off, if Jon Jones was really the Michael Jordan of our sport, if he was really these things, can you imagine Jordan, Jordan retiring, and it's just like, he retired, he's done, and that's it. Like, there's no ceremony to this whatsoever. There's no kind of hoopla. It's just, from every angle, it's crazy, but I think from the Aspinalls especially, it just got to feel like a slap in the face, man. I mean, the way this is all played out, what a slap in the face. He should already be considered the greatest heavyweight there is already.
Well, and also you're talking about his athletic prime, and he's sitting around. He's been waiting a year to even find out what's going to happen with it, and so it's just like it's heavyweight. They don't have a super long window. In just historically speaking. So to be sitting around and seeing some of these prime earning years and prime like years to really build your own legacy, and you're just waiting around for a thing that was never going to happen while everybody just sort of toys with you and treats you like the least important part of the equation when you're the guy going forward. Like, you would think that they would have an interest in making sure like Tom Aspinall is built up, because he's the guy who's going to carry you forward into whatever is next.
There's also like and you guys are parents, you'll understand this better than I do, but like he kind of gets into it at some stage, like wearing both those hats at the same time. And he's like, I'm coaching this guy to fight these enormous dudes who can touch you and really fuck you up. And they've been messing with him. And in my head, I'm putting him into spars and I'm saying, is he motivated? Is he switched on? Like, he has nothing to prepare for here. And I'm putting him in with this dude. And he could get really fucking hurt. If the slightest thing goes wrong here, he could get really hurt. And here I am with a stopwatch in my hand going, go for it. Like, that is a crazy thing, man. That like the relationship, the dynamic between these guys
Yeah.
is unbelievable. And I don't know, like I just feel like to your point, Chuck, like the UFC not promoting him. What a job they've done, Team Aspinall, in terms of getting this public sentiment behind him. Because, and I think Jon Jones obviously helped that a lot. The week he fought Stipe really helped when he was like, "Oh, fuck him," blah blah blah. And we saw the crowd. Ariel played this on Monday on the show. We saw the crowd screaming, "Tommy, Tommy!" And that's the first time we're all like, "Wow, it's not just us. It's not people within the industry. Everybody loves this guy. Like they need to be commended for that." They have Charlie there doing the media, which he's been doing the vlogs. Tom himself has been putting himself in spots, as I've mentioned to Ariel. It hasn't been visible for the US audience, but big time slots on BBC and things like this. Like this stuff is work. It's not easy. You have to go and put yourself out there. Comedic spots. He's doing question of sport, panel shows. Very difficult things to do and rarefied air for MMA fighters. So they need to be commended. And honestly, I guess the before all this Jones stuff, we were going to talk about how you would play this reign. But I think the UFC owe it to him to make these compelling fights. And, you know, we're talking about the kind of eye roll with Gan, but the likes of Pereira, I heard Rick say on Monday, like, that is how you get this guy a superstar. This is how you turn him into a superstar. Ben, do you think that the UFC, like, should entertain the idea of maybe not putting Pereira into a 205 fight and pushing him up for that fight? Obviously, he's been kind of posturing like he wants this. Like, could that be a viable option for the UFC, or do you think, unfortunately, we're going for the eye roll option?
No, I think that there's two really good options if you want to do a big fight for Tom Aspinall in his first heavyweight title defense. The first is Francis Ngannou.
Mm.
If I mean, it would take Dana White swallowing his pride and going and trying to make a deal with
Not gonna
Francis
happen.
Ngannou, which seems unlikely at this point. Although that is another wild commentary in the state of the sport right now, that the thing that might stop you from signing a deal that would be lucrative for everybody with the guy who is the lineal heavyweight champ is that Dana White's just like, I'm personally not a fan.
Yeah, I'm
I
not a
don't
fan
like,
of his.
don't like him as a person.
I
And it's
said this
like,
on Monday
who
too.
He's not
cares?
nice.
Who cares who you like as a person? You like a
And
lot
when did
of
that
not
come into the
nice
equation?
people.
He's
You
yeah,
like
he's
a
got all
lot
the
of awful people. You were out there gleefully welcoming Andrew Tate back to the United States, and then 2 weeks later he was getting accused of a
Oh,
different
God.
sexual assault. You do not have to like people in order to make a deal with them in fight sports of all industries. So like that shouldn't even come into it. It would be a huge deal if you could get Francis back, and if anybody should have to humble themselves at the table in order to get that deal done, it should be the UFC and not Francis. And if you couldn't do that one, and it seems unlikely that they will be able to get that one done, then I do think Alex Pereira is the next best option, because at least you have a narrative there. You can say Alex Pereira is going to attempt to make history by going up in weight to win a belt in a third UFC weight class. And it's not like that's crazy coming off this title loss, because that's how he moved up to light heavyweight, was after losing the middleweight title to Israel Adesanya. So he goes up there, works out great for him at light heavyweight. He becomes, if anything, a bigger star at light heavyweight than he was at middleweight. He's one of the few guys you have on the roster right now who does feel like a star. Like he still has that quality even after the loss to Magomed Ankalaev. So it's like you could take that guy, move him up to heavyweight. We've seen his magical ability to look as big as whoever he is standing next to in a photograph. So you could take Alex Pereira, put him in heavyweight. He doesn't look like he doesn't belong. He wouldn't look like this guy is clearly not a heavyweight. He's a big dude. And you could have him go and fight Tom Aspinall, and then you've got something that feels big. You got like Tom Aspinall's finally going to defend the title, try to cement himself as the undisputed champion. Alex Pereira, here he is, an exciting fighter, an exciting style, going to go for a third UFC title. People would get into that. Like you could make that feel like something. Whereas if you just did Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gahn, or basically anybody in the top 5 at heavyweight right now, it feels so much like a plan B or C or D. It feels like we tried to do something cool. couldn't do it. Here's this anyway. Like it just feels like warmed leftovers instead of like a big actual heavyweight title fight, you know?
Man, I'm sold on the Pereira thing. Like you're sitting there talking about.
You're gonna throw your boy to the wolves, Chuck. You're gonna throw your
well,
damn
I
free
do
boy
think
to
he
the wolves.
is a big dude.
He's
a big guy, man. I mean, he's not going to be he's not going to be Aspinall big, but he's big enough where like I think that the size difference wouldn't be so crazy that you're like he has no chance because there's what I mean. Like I think, and plus you just take in his striking prowess, and I think
he's
Aspinall,
faster.
he's faster, all that stuff.
Is he?
Pretty fascinating, man. Well, see, I mean this is what we want. This is debate. I agree though on every point. It'd be interesting to see if that's the direction they go. I think that is the biggest fight, probably. Like outside of Ngannou, like you mentioned, that's the biggest fight. And just even thinking about, because I hadn't really sat and thought about that fight. As you're talking about it, I'm like, yeah, that feels pretty big to me. So that's what Aspinall deserves. I think he deserves some kind of like true coronation where he gets to fight a guy where there's going to be a ton of media and there's going to be a ton of, spotlight to it, and just it feels big. That's what he deserves after going through all this. So I feel like that's the best option.
Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.